Okay, here's number 5, and then I'll go ahead and give you the just the answer for 6. Hopefully after a few examples you start picking this up. So I have to graph all 3 of these lines. So I'm going to label them like red, green, and blue. So for the red line, it says x is less than 0. So where is x less than 0? It's all the way through here. 0, -1, all those. Green is going to be from 0 to 3. To 3. And then blue is greater than 3 because this says x is greater than 3, or 3 is less than x. Now, this one is going to go on forever, and so is this side. The only thing I have to think about is the transition points. So, what I mean by that, there's only a couple here. So when I'm at 0, here and here, is it a part of the top one or the second one? Well, it's some part of this one, because this says x is less than or equal to 0. So that means that 0 is going to be with the red part, so I'll just put like a solid dot there. And then green, I'm going to make the transition 3 as part of the second one, because 3, it says or equal to 3. So that means 3 is going to be part of the green graph. So all I have to do is graph this one for numbers that are less than 0. So I could plug in numbers like -1. Let's go ahead and do that. The only thing is I think that'll give me a decimal. So it might be easier to just graph this one and then I'll show you what I mean. So if I told you guys to graph this equation, just like it was, you were in AGS 1, that's what I suggest doing. So for 2/5 x plus 6, the y-intercept is 6. And the slope is 2/5. Rise over run. So that's 2 up and 5 to the right. Now the only problem with this thing that I've graphed here is I've definitely graphed 2/5 x plus 6. But I'm only supposed to graph it for the part of it that is x is less than 0. So pretty much everything but what I have graphed. So I need to like carry it backwards so it's over here at these negative numbers. So if I'm going up 2 and over 5, I would just do the opposite of that in this direction, which is down 2 and left 5. Although I didn't count, hold on, I miscounted up here, I can tell. Up 2 and over 5 is this one. Okay, so again, that part is not part of the graph. But this part that is less than 0. So I have to remove this part. And now I have graphed that equation just for the part that's less than 0. The next equation is just from 0 to 3. So that's the green portion. Maybe I should circle that in green so you know that that's where it's going to go. So I would just graph that, and I know that the y-intercept is -4 because b of y equals mx plus b is the y-intercept. So that's -4. And then I just have to do what the graph tells me to do, which is -4/3. So rise over run tells me to go down 4 and to the right 3. All this requires you to do is just know how to graph lines, okay? So that is from 0 to 3. Now again, we talked about that point 0. See how it's part of the green and the red right now? We talked about how it's really only part of this. Since it's or equal to 0, it's part of the red. So I'm actually going to erase this dot here. And what we do when that happens is we put an open circle, meaning that 0 is not a part of that line. It's a part of the red line. Okay, now we're going to go on to the last part of the graph. So we have this, which is in our new point slope form, which I think most of us agreed was easier. So when I do this, it's going to now be blue. I should circle that in blue because it's going to go in the blue part of the graph where x is greater than 3. This tells me right 3. This tells me up 1. We've covered that in class a lot. this tells me the slope, rise over run. 2 up, 1 over. And there it is. The only thing I need to decide is if 3 itself is actually a part of the green or the blue. And I can tell by that green dot that I want it to be part of the green and not part of the blue. So this would be an open dot because 3 is included here, but the green one not here. So there is my graph from, again, negative infinity. And then as soon as we got here to 0, we had to switch to the second equation. And as soon as we got to 3, we had to switch to the third equation. To answer the questions, I'd have to find f of -2. So that means when x is -2, what's y? Well, that would be this first line, right? So f of -2 looks to me to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if I wasn't sure, I could go ahead and plug this into the equation of 2/5 x plus 6. So if I plug that in, I would in fact get, let's see, I'd have 2/5 times -2 plus 6, which would give me -4 over 5 plus 6. Now, if you don't know how to add that, you could make this a decimal in your calculator by going -4 divided by 5. And that gives you -0.8 plus 6. And when you do that, that would land you at 5.2. So that means that this must cross, not exactly on that block, but 5 and just a little bit up. So it's a good thing that I checked my work there. All right, let's look at f of 0. Oops, I erased my red line. So for f of 0, I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So f of 0 is 6. Just to make sure, I'll erase all this blue stuff. Just to make sure, I would plug in 0. And I would think, again, does it go in this one or this one? Well, since it's or equal to, it would go in this one. And if I put 0 here, 2/5 times 0 is 0, and 0 plus 6 is 6. Now I'd put in 5. So 5 is right here. And I would go up. And I can see that when I plug in 5, I hit 5 on my line. So just to test that, I'd put 5 here. So I'd have 5 minus 3 is 2, and 2 times 2 plus 1 is 5. So that's how these work for the graphing ones. So let's see if I have time to do just a couple more here on the next one. Yeah, I can get through this first part. This is the easier part of the test, okay? Identify the vertex, if it opens up or down, minimum, maximum, and all that kind of stuff. So the vertex here, remember this is left 1. The inside, the absolute value, is opposite. And then there's nothing on the outside, so that's -1, 0. And this number in front turns it up or down. If it's negative, it goes down. So if it's down, do I have a minimum point or a maximum point? That is as high as the graph can be. It has a maximum point of -1, 0, because that's just the top. That's just going to be the same as the vertex. Narrow, wider, the same. It's the same. It's the same when this is 1. Okay? When it's bigger than 1, it's wider. No, I'm sorry. When it's bigger than 1, it is narrower. And when it's smaller than 1, or in between 0 and 1, that's when it's wider. Let's do a couple more. So this would be the opposite. So +3, -4. And it has a positive number in front, so that's opening up. So it would look like this. Now it has a minimum point. So if it's like this, it's minimum. If it's like this, it's max. And then narrow, wider, the same. Well, if I have a number right here that's bigger than 1, it's going to be narrower. It's going to be a narrower V. And again, that minimum point is just the same as the vertex. Okay, let's quickly talk about what you do with a fraction in front. So first of all, the vertex is 1, 0. And it has a negative number opening down, which gives it a maximum point. and it is a number that is less than 1, so it would then be wider. And I'll show you how to graph that in a little bit, okay? That should take you through the rest of the assignment, and I will pick up the next video on these kind here.